Let me drop off the bad news to you. Devin Haney confirms that he absolutely is not meeting any kind of catch weights, any rehydration clauses, etc. to fight Gervonta Davis. In this video, I'll explain why that is bad news, or at least that's how I see it. Subscribe to the channel, it's free. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. So you can see from this video, this is Devin Haney after his last fight with Lomachenko. And, you know, his face looks definitely full. I don't know what his walk around weight was. For his fight with Regis Prograis, he was the lightweight guy who was making 135. Surprisingly, he moved up to 140 and weighed more than the career 140-pounder, which was Regis Prograis. I made a video about it. This is why you guys got to subscribe to the channel. I'm the best in the business, and it's not even close. So he is big for the division, and it's safe to say that 135 was probably taxing and killing his body as it got, you know, as time wore on, if you will. Now Devin Haney has come out and stated that what his father said was true, because he reiterated it and said that he's not fighting Tank Davis at a catch weight. There's no rehydration clause. They're going to do it like throwback fighters, or seemingly there is no fight. This is the video where I tell you why that is bad news. So Gervonta Davis is the A side. He has the stats. He's been branded right. Devin Haney's doing very well for himself. I was at his last fight. It was a packed crowd. You know, I'm not even going to get into, because Tank Davis is like, oh, ticket prices were $57 and stuff. But at the end of the day, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. There was a great turnout in the Bay Area for Devin Haney's last fight. But then when you factor in whatever the pay-per-view buys did and the live gate, it doesn't match Gervonta Davis's, even with that many people in the building, and it being a great performance by Devin Haney over Regis Prograis. These are the factual numbers. To further illustrate this point, Leonard Ellerby, who's worked with Gervonta Davis basically his whole career, said this yesterday: numbers will never lie. The numbers will always tell the true story. The business will always dictate the current market value, always. So that right there is fully substantiating what I am telling you. And I know there's some people, especially on boxing Twitter, and people who are just radical boxing fans that don't understand the business. They keep saying, oh yeah, Ego, who cares about all that? Just make the fight. You big dummy, the fight won't happen if the business doesn't align and make sense, to the point where, like, if a fighter has stipulate, like in the case of Devin Haney has told you his terms, but he's telling you his terms really as the B-side in this equation. So right there, before negotiations have even started, you have a stumbling block. You have a potential roadblock, because Devin, you know, he's entitled to his opinion and how he thinks things should go. But then on the flip side of that coin, being objective, so is Gervonta Davis. And Gervonta Davis knows he has the stature and the names and the leverage. So he's going to be looking at it as, who the hell is Devin Haney to dictate to me what the terms are? So all the people trying to rush through what I'm saying, like, oh, Ego, I don't even care about that. Excuses, just make the fight. The people who are saying all that dumb stuff, guess what? That will be the very reason and causation for the fight not happening. So people want to omit or bypass or disregard what's being said. But again, those are also people that usually don't have a business, don't run a business, don't make no money in the world of boxing. And they're just that, fans, fanatical fans, and they just want what they want, and that's it. But I come from, my dad was in the military, so I was raised a military brat. And one thing the military teaches you is things like chain of command, things like order of operations. In the military, what they call it is insubordination. So if your ranking, like official, officer, lieutenant, whoever your boss is, tells you the orders and the game plan of how you're going to storm in this building or do this and that, or whatever the mission is, and you disregard and say, oh, I got a better way, I'm going to do it my way, then guess what? That is punishable, because you know when you sign up in the military, the order of operations, chain of command, you're not the person in position to make that decision. So again, they call it insubordination. And that's similar to any other business. Like, because you think you have a better way, like businesses have and establishments, they have different things that are put into place, if you will. Like if you go into a business or establishment and they say, grab a ticket, that's your number, and we're gonna go in chronological order and you'll get your product when we call you to the desk, but we gotta go in order with people who pulled the tickets. Because you don't feel like waiting, because you don't feel like listening, or you don't wanna be dictated to, that doesn't mean you could just say, oh, I'm gonna disregard, I'm gonna just cut in line. Guess what? They're probably not gonna serve you. And that's the same thing for boxing, whether people realize it or not. Usually in almost every single instance or negotiations that you'll see in boxing, there's usually one person, because people do not have the same exact careers. So there's usually one person who has superseded the other person in terms of popularity, seats sold, and statistical data, things that culminate into you becoming the A side or not. So with that being said, when you have a noted A side like Gervonta Davis, it's cool that Devin Haney, he doesn't have to play by Gervonta Davis's rules. But the point I'm making is, if you don't play by the A side rules, then there's a great chance that the fight won't happen. And that's the point I'm making. So that could be a definite, and I'm just warning you guys. I'm not here to clickbait you and tell you what you want to hear. I'm telling you what you need to hear. And the reality is, boxing has always worked like this, where the A side that has leverage, you kind of have to conform to some of their demands. If they get the lion's share of the money, if they get top billing, if they get, this ring size, right? Oh, I want a big ring. Like even Caleb Plant, if I'm not mistaken, wanted a bigger ring for David Benavidez because that suits his style better to have David Benavidez, and he has to chase you and do more to cut off the ring. So we've seen these things throughout the history of boxing. So again, Devin is entitled, and his dad, they're entitled to not want to play by those rules and say no rehydration clause. We're not meeting you at this weight. Despite Devin recently, before the Regis fight, he did say he would go back down to 135 for a big fight. But now after experiencing how he felt at 140, I guess he's now turned around and contradicted that, or said, no, I'm not willing to go back down. So that's what I can see as being a big potential roadblock. And then you have Devin Haney, who's also talking about fighting at 147. His name has been linked to Jaron Ennis. His name has been linked to Conor Benn and Keith Thurman and Barrios, who's now at 47. So being realistic and objective and fair, why would an A side like Gervonta Davis do anything that the opponent wants you to do that they feel favors them and gives them the best chance to win? That's just basic rules of engagement. I talked to Amir Khan before right when he's about to fight against Canelo. He said he tried to get the Canelo fight with a rehydration clause, but Canelo being the dictator or the A side, Canelo's team and Golden Boy at the time, they said, no, if you want to fight Canelo, you fight at these terms. You're moving up from welterweight to Canelo weight of 155. And in addition to that, we're not adding no rehydration clause. So Canelo can weigh however much he wants in the fight. But later in Canelo's career, when he's fighting guys who are bigger than them, he sometimes puts a rehydration clause on them, like Danny Jacobs or Kovalev or whoever, to make sure and ensure that they don't gain too much weight. This is basic boxing. So all the people, they want to discount this and say, oh, Tank, you're scared, and, do whatever Devin says, and Devin's accomplished more. Whatever you're saying, that's not how boxing works, and it's never been how boxing works. So I could see that being a big, huge stumbling block to this fight not happening, because again, before negotiations have even happened, Devin Haney and Bill Haney have already set their flag in the ground, and they've stated that we're fighting with these stipulations and that's it. So they're not even open anymore to the idea of entertaining anything like that. And for me, that's not a great way to kick off negotiations if you're saying before the fight, as the B-side, almost what you will and won't do. You see what I'm saying? You're basically saying my way or the highway as the B-side. You're saying, hey, you know, I've done this and this, so I don't care what Tank's talking about. If the fight happens, it's happening at this weight, no rehydration clause. So if you're not even in negotiations with somebody and you've already set these terms and there's no flexibility, you're not even open to the idea, then again, good luck. You guys can get hyped for the fight. I'm not getting hyped for the fight because I know the business of boxing, and I know at the end of the day, it likely won't happen unless, I mean, what A side is going to want to feel played like they have no say-so? They have no say-so in what happened. They just let the B side punk them. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't happen all too often in the sport of boxing. So I could see this being a major obstacle. In addition to weight, you got to deal with the money and fight in a location where both fighters are good with the location that was decided, et cetera, et cetera. So this fight has a lot of potential, you know, earning potential if it were to happen. But again, for me, I'm not holding my breath that it will happen because there's a lot of obstacles before you even get there, especially if weight is a massive one. You got Devin Haney rehydrating to super middleweight as 165, and then you have Tank, who's relatively not the biggest 135 pounder. So you already see the jockeying for position, and both fighters are trying to find and have whatever advantage for them. So they both can't be right. Both terms can't be met if one person's saying likely have it at this weight. Now, I'm not saying Tank won't fight at 140, but I'm saying for me, I could see this being an obstacle if Team Haney says no rehydration clause, no catch weight, no fighting at lightweight. That's 3 different terms that the B side has set, and I've never seen that in boxing. So I'll keep you guys updated. Subscribe to the channel. It's free. YouTube will show you some other boxing videos that you'll definitely be interested in, so make sure you give those a watch.